booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery.
Do you ever wonder if mankind will one day be able to live somewhere out in space? Will technology ever advance to that extent? Guess what? It's going to happen sooner than you think. In today's list, we'll be telling you about the insane new moon base expected to be ready by 2024. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any of our new videos. First up, NASA's Artemis Base Camp. Doesn't that just sound like a science fiction movie? The truth is that NASA is planning on building a base camp, but it's not so simple. They will need many things such as light, water, and elevation. The moon's south pole is where American astronauts aim to take their first steps. Let's not forget that the land is of extreme light, extreme darkness, and frozen water. This could potentially fuel NASA's Artemis lunar base and the agency's leap into deep space. Right now, scientists and engineers are trying to figure out the precise location of the Artemis Base Camp concept. This is a difficult task as NASA is trying to pinpoint where there is continuous sunlight to power the base. It also has to moderate extreme temperature swings and offer access to areas of complete darkness that hold water ice. It really doesn't sound like it's easy. The Artemis Base Camp has to be on the Earth-facing side to make it easier for engineers to use radio waves to communicate with astronauts working on the moon. In the long term, the facility would also require infrastructure for power, waste disposal, and communications, as well as radiation shielding and a landing pad. The base could also be a site for testing new techniques for dealing with pesky lunar dust and the long, cold lunar nights, turning local materials into resources like water, and developing new power and construction technologies. The overall goal is to build a permanent habitation on the lunar surface. Next, we have the South Pole region. The South Pole region has well-illuminated areas, with some parts seeing more or less light than others. Scientists have discovered that there are longer periods of light on crater rims. That's because crater rims have higher elevations. The height of the sun in the sky doesn't change much at the lunar poles, but the bottoms of some deep craters are shrouded in near constant darkness. Since sunlight at the South Pole strikes at such a low angle, it only brushes their rims. Light is important to astronauts for their base camp, but they still need to be able to take short trips through permanently dark craters. These unique lighting conditions have to do with the moon's tilt and with the topography of the South Pole region. If you were on a hilltop near the lunar South Pole during daylight hours at any time of the year, you would see the sun moving across the horizon. It would pretty much look like a flashlight laying on a table. W. Brent Gary, a geologist at NASA, says that it's such a dramatic terrain down there. Gary is working with engineers on a virtual reality tour of the moon's South Pole to help immerse astronauts, scientists, and mission planners in the exotic environment of that region as they prepare for human return to the moon. Next, differences between the moon and Earth. As we all know, the moon is different from Earth. Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees, unlike the moon, which is tilted 1.5 degrees on its axis. As a result, neither of the moon's hemispheres tip noticeably toward or away from the sun throughout the year as it does on Earth, a phenomenon that gives us sunnier and darker seasons here. NASA is looking into setting up camp in an illuminated zone and traverse into exceptionally cold craters. Temperatures in some of the coldest craters can dip to about minus 391 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 235 degrees Celsius. The moon differs here from Earth. We don't experience such darkness in craters, nor such severe temperature changes. Another factor is that the South Pole region is located right between the Earth-facing side of the moon, or the near side, and the side we never see from Earth, known as the far side. These two hemispheres are geologically very different, with the far side more heavily cratered and its crust thicker than on the near side. Scientists don't know why the two sides formed this way. Hopefully one day we'll find out. Next up, what do we know about the spacecraft? NASA plans on landing their spacecraft on a relatively flat part of a well-lit crater rim or a ridge. The vehicle must land on a flat surface so that it doesn't tip over. The landing area ideally should be separated from the other base camp features, such as habitat or solar panels, by at least half a mile or 1 kilometer. It has to be placed at a different elevation to prevent spraying high-speed debris at equipment or areas of scientific interest. The issue at hand is the landing of the spacecraft. Most craft don't fully make a soft landing. Sometimes hundreds of pounds or kilograms of surface particles, water, and other gases spray for miles or several kilometers. According to Ruthin Lewis, a biomechanical and industrial engineer at NASA, hills can act as barriers to minimize the impact of contamination. They are looking at distances, elevations, and slopes in their planning. Scientists say that it's critical to keep the area around the landing site and the base camp as immaculate as possible. Next up, let's talk about the water resources on the moon. As you well know, without water we cannot survive. So what about about water on the moon? It is believed that water on the moon will be able to sustain the base. In 2020, the U.S. Space Agency announced that they have discovered evidence of water on their only natural satellite. This ambiguous detection of molecular water will boost NASA's hopes of establishing a lunar base. Unlike previous detections of water in permanently shadowed parts of lunar craters, scientists have now detected the molecule in sunlit regions of the moon's surface. It is suspected that these craters are home to reservoirs of frozen water that explorers could use for life support. The amount of water is roughly equivalent to a 12-ounce bottle of water in a cubic meter of lunar soil, but researchers still needed to understand the nature of the watery deposits. This would help them determine how accessible they would be for future lunar explorers to use. Hannah Sargent, a planetary scientist from the Open University in Milton Keynes, was saying to the BBC that there have previously been signs of water on the lunar surface, but these discoveries suggest it is more abundant than previously thought. She also says that it gives them more options for potential water sources on the moon. Next, how did scientists find the lunar water? The first of these new findings were made from an airborne infrared telescope known as SOFIA. This observatory on board a modified Boeing 747 flies above much of the Earth's atmosphere, giving a largely unobstructed view of the solar system. Using this infrared telescope, researchers picked up the signature color of water molecules. Scientists think it is stored in bubbles of lunar glass or between grains on the surface that protect it from the harsh environment. In the other study, scientists looked for permanently shadowed areas known as cold traps where water could be captured and remain permanently. They found these cold traps at both poles and concluded that approximately 40,000 kilometers squared of the lunar surface can trap water. Experts say that the water ice could form the basis of a future lunar economy once they figure out how to extract it. Next up, how much does the project cost? A big question on our minds is how much is being invested into this project. The answer is a lot. The Biden administration has given a budget of $24.8 billion to NASA. This target might not be met by 2022, according to NASA Administration Bill Nelson. The $24.8 billion budget request represents a 6.6% boost over 2021 and includes $6.88 billion for the Artemis moon program and $4 billion for space operations, which covers the International Space Station and commercial crew and cargo missions to the lab complex. The science operations cost the most, totaling $7.93 billion. That includes $3.2 billion for planetary exploration, with initial funding for a Mars sample return mission, and $2.25 billion for a new multi-satellite Earth science initiative to learn more about climate change and its effects. The president's budget request is recognition that NASA's missions contribute to the administration's larger goals for America: climate change, promoting equity, driving economic growth, STEM research and development, all of which equals jobs, Nelson said. It's the largest budget request for NASA science ever. Last on our list, when will the spacecraft reach the moon? The U.S. Space Agency has said it will send the first woman and next man to the lunar surface in 2024 to prepare for the next giant leap for exploring Mars as early as the 2030s. The 10-year plan will involve 37 launches of both NASA and private rockets, aiming for a human landing on the moon again in 2024. Thereafter, there will be an annual space mission to the moon until 2028, where NASA will commence its construction of a lunar base for long-duration crew stays. The graphic also outlines an array of other information, such as the major launches needed to build a lunar gateway or refueling missions for the future outpost. Refueling at the moon could therefore bring down the cost of space travel and make a lunar base more affordable. It would be much cheaper to make rocket fuel on the moon than send it from Earth, so when future lunar explorers want to return to Earth or travel onto other destinations, they could turn the water into the hydrogen and oxygen commonly used to power space vehicles. And that's it for today, guys. Hope you guys are just as excited about this insane new moon base. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button to see more of our videos. Leave us a like and a comment down below in the comment section. Until next time.